was the boogeyman.
As a matter of fact, it was.
All right, guys. It's finally time. We're going to start the Halloween review series with the original 1978 Top of the Mountain OG slasher movie. Full disclosure, I love this series. I love even the bad ones. There's some that maybe I don't love them all. We'll get there when we get there. I absolutely love this movie, though. I recently just watched it again. I can't tell you how many times I've seen it. I put it on the other night as I was laying down for bed, laid there and watched it, and I couldn't fall asleep. I had to watch the whole thing. It's just good. It's a great movie. This is like the perfect representation of a young filmmaker, especially maybe back in the day. That's not fair, but to me, growing up, after this time frame, like someone like John Carpenter, Steven Spielberg with Jaws, but this wasn't like his first movie. He did a couple of movies before this. And we did like the Elvis, maybe they were TV movies and stuff, but all the same, you can just see the ambition behind the hard work, that he was willing to put into this to make it, to leave his mark, I guess. The movie starts out with this great long shot, that's like, very much like an Orson Welles type thing, right? Which I'm sure Carpenter was a big fan of. With, young Michael, from his point of view, looking into his sister and her boyfriend, and then coming into the house and getting a knife, and then seeing the boyfriend leave, and then, we all know. And if you haven't seen it, I'm not trying to tell you the whole movie, but start off with something like that, and to know, anybody that knows anything about filmmaking knows how insanely difficult pulling off that shot would have to be, how to coordinate everything, light everything, and the stories about it. If you dig in deep enough about the crew running around and turning all the lights around, so when he comes downstairs that, that everything looks good. So it took I think a couple of days to film that shot. That's a pain in the ass, and you got to be a pretty ambitious and somewhat crazy person to try and pull something like that off on a small budget movie. But he did it. And that's not all. I mean, that's just like right out the gate, right? There's so many just cool little things he does in this movie. So much thought that's put into it that just makes it work. It's simple. And this is, I'm going to go on tangents all over in this review as things come to me. But as I was watching it last night, because it's not a particularly graphic movie, not even really that violent. It's, aside from like a few scenes with nudity in it and stuff, it would probably be a great teen horror movie, in a weird way. It's very scary. It's very creepy. It's got some violence in it, but it's nothing by today's standards that you wouldn't see on TV, even less than what you would see on TV, frankly, by today's standards, right? Very little blood. Just a really cool movie, man. Really creepy. Great start to the whole French slasher, kind of, the world we live in. I mean, slashers have carried on and only, grown and grown and grown, and been kind of reinvigorated throughout the time with, different movies and stuff. And I know this wasn't like the OG, truly original slasher. We had, Psycho in the 60s, and I think, was it Peeping Tom or something like that way back in the day. But this one really just was a hit, and rightfully so. And I'm glad, because they got John Carpenter making more movies, who, especially back in the day, his old stuff, man. I love so many of his old movies. Some of my favorites are John Carpenter movies. It just works. It's so simple. This is before, right before Friday the 13th came out, and I know Friday the 13th is admittedly a ripoff of this. Like, they wanted to cash in on the Halloween success. I think the Texas Chainsaw is either right before or right after. It was very close to when this came out, because I know it was in the 70s. But either way, that one came out, and that one's not as much fun for me to watch. I can respect it for what it is, and even some of the sequels, remakes, and stuff I probably enjoy more than the original. Sorry, but the original's great for what it was, and it just feels like you're watching a snuff movie, though, and it's not enjoyable to me. I don't want to go back and rewatch that. And then you got, a few years later, you had Nightmare on Elm Street, of course, which is awesome, and it did its own thing. It was a very cool movie, too, obviously. We'll get to that eventually as well. It wasn't like a rip-off of Halloween by any means. It was a slasher movie, but it definitely did its own thing. It was very cool and very original. But what I liked about this was that it's so relatable. Not everybody's broken down in Texas somewhere on the side of the road and, had to run in with, crazy cannibals or, not everybody has night terrors, maybe they'll have nightmares and stuff, but not everybody's gone to summer camp. A lot of people have, maybe, especially not nowadays. I don't know a lot of people who go to summer camp. I never got to go to summer camp, so even relating to Friday the 13th wasn't as easy for me as watching a slasher movie that takes place in just any town, USA, and suburbia. Because anybody who grew up, in these places, especially back then, back in the 80s, 70s, I didn't grow up in the 70s, but the 80s and the 90s, there's always that spooky house. There was always a story of this guy who did something or whatever, you know what I mean? There was always some kind of folklore or urban legend in the town that the kids told each other at sleepovers. So that is relatable here. And we don't dig into who Michael Myers is. That's also what's awesome about it. He's just this kid who killed his sister. We don't know why. He's locked up 15 years later. The introduction we get is through his doctor, Dr. Loomis, played by the great Donald Pleasance, who's a true highlight of these movies. And all he tells us is that he spent 15 years trying to get through to Michael Myers. Can't. He should be put in a cage until he dies. And he gets loose, right? So then we get the rest of the movie that is not gory, not violent, really. We get, we're following three girls around, predominantly Laurie, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, and her big breakthrough role. And he's just in the background. He's just there. He's stalking, and that's creepy, man. That's something more people can relate to. Even if you haven't been stalked, maybe you thought you were being stalked, or you felt like, man, is that dude following me? Or did I see somebody over there by that bush? These are all things that we can all kind of latch on to as real. And of course, by the end of the movie, when things kind of pick up, he starts picking all these characters off. And it just gets scarier and scarier. But the tone throughout the entire movie is pretty freaky and easy to buy into. Now, let's talk about the score real quick, because I think that's super important, because that's as much of a character in this as anybody or anything else is. And that's, I think, one of John Carpenter's strengths as well, that he acts also as composer. And I think that's just another way he's able to give you a little bit more of the vibe he's trying to give. Aside from writing and directing, he also gives you the sound, and how iconic is the Halloween score. We all know the Halloween score. You don't even have to see these movies to know what it is, but it's been around for over 40 years, and we all know it. It's been part of pop culture forever. I venture to say that it's maybe even more popular than the Jaws theme. Maybe not, but it's on par for sure, right? And it's not just the score. His little stingers that he gives in there that will make your skin crawl, and you kind of, they help the jump scares. And it's just another strength of the movie that really works out. The mask, the simplest mask ever. I mean, we all know the story. I'm not going to delve into it, but I am going to delve into it and just say it's a William Shatner Star Wars. Oh, God. Don't chastise me. Sorry. Star Trek mask that they, hollowed the eyes out a bit more, spray painted it, messed with the hair. And that's the Michael Myers mask. And it's one of the scariest masks ever because of how simple and bland it is. I think the emotionless side of it. But anyway, so I'm just going to keep this kind of tight. I don't want to drag this out and I'm not sitting here trying to give you all the facts about the movie, but it just works. It's still scary to this day. If you haven't seen it somehow, if you're watching this video, and this is what's going to determine if you watch the original 1978 Halloween, do it. Watch it. Please, God, watch it. If you haven't seen it in a long time, go back and watch it. I've seen this movie I don't even know how many times, but I haven't watched it in a couple years, to be honest, with all the other stuff coming out. But I went back, watched the original, and it really came back how much I enjoy this movie and how scary it is. Just it's a legit movie. It's just fun. It's fun to watch all the way through. Things change as we get through this series for sure. I'm not even going to get ahead of myself here, but this is just a purely great horror movie. And like I said again, it's really not, if you're not into the gore and all that, the obscene foul language that sometimes comes up, none of that's in here. This is just a spooky, creepy movie. And it really, really, really is a strong, I won't say first effort, but early effort from John Carpenter. And one that definitely earned him his place, as a renowned filmmaker, because he's done some great stuff. So yeah. And if you've seen it, you've seen it. If you like me and you gonna make it a tradition to watch it every Halloween, kudos, high five. Give me a high five in the comments below. But anyway, we'll carry on with Halloween 2 here shortly. Thank you for watching. Please, as usual, like, share, subscribe, comment below. Tell me about the first time you've seen Halloween, how many times you've seen Halloween, what you like, what you don't like, and which ones you're looking forward to in the series as we get to reviewing them all. So, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon.